If you're a big fan of a rogue deck that people will respect you for playing, be sure to comment hashtag squad goals so I know you're with the Eugene gang. Hey, how's it going YouTube? Winning Image here today. I was for you guys a deck breakdown to what some consider a weaker deck out of Overdress Set 1, Dragon Empire Eugene. I personally think this deck has some good combo pieces that need to be developed in upcoming set releases because of its mechanic to retire and generate advantage using your Vanguard. It's very similar to some previous Kagura concepts. So if you're interested to see how Eugene could take advantage of said mechanics, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Winning Image YouTube channel, and comment your thoughts telling me what you think of Eugene. With all that out of the way, let's take a look at what he does because the text don't lie. So taking a look at Eugene, he is another Dragon Empire deck out of set 1 and has these really cool skills. His first skill is to rest 2 rearguards, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it, and it gets 10k until the end of turn. Then his second skill is where the magic happens. At the cost of Soul Blast 5, look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the same number of your opponent's open rearguard circles. Choose any number of those cards and call them to rearguard and put the rest into your soul. This effect is actually really neat. His first skill gives himself power, which could force more cards out of your opponent's hand, becoming 23k. This card could force a 25k to pass, which can be maximum 5 cards. His second skill does what I call bring out the boys. However, the drawback is that it is random, meaning that if your luck stinks, you won't be able to have an optimal field. Furthermore, lacking a large power play without a persona ride, those units and your attacks won't be able to be as large or consistent numbers when compared to the Overdress type deck. The rest of the deck helps you create ideal situations for Eugene in the main phase or for a following turn. Here are some of the highlights. Stealth Fiend Shiga Manago is a perfect rest target for Eugene because of her skill. When your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, you can retire it to look at the top card of your deck and call it to rearguard or put it into your soul. This effect is really good. It essentially gives you a 1-for-1 and optimal rest target for Eugene's first skill. Being the fact that it is a grade 1, it could call anything we have in the deck, which essentially means you play 4 more copies of every other card in the deck, so you could have more space to play more grade 2 or grade 3 attackers. The next card I want to highlight is Stealth Dragon Tenacious Steed. As mentioned how the Eugene deck needs Persona Ride, this card makes it happen. When the attack that it boosted hits, you could counterblast 1 to retire it to choose your Vanguard and search your deck for a card with the same name as it and add it to your hand. Although this effect is very simple, this card brings a lot of power to the deck. Going back to our previous point to how this deck has a hard time making numbers, this card is there for you to somewhat fix it. By not only putting pressure for your opponent to guard, if they understand the matchup, they likely won't let this hit. And since this deck doesn't use counterblast, almost always when this goes off, you'll be able to get this skill off for a following turn, setting up a finishing play Persona Ride. Finally, the last card I want to highlight is Sunlight Punishment, a powerful normal order out of set 1 which helps Eugene get off its main skills. With this card skill, you can counterblast 1 or more cards when you play it to retire that many of your opponent's rearguards. This card in my opinion is a must-have in Eugene. With its skill to essentially enable your Vanguard to whatever extent you want because you don't use as much counterblast, Sunlight Punishment can be pog if timed correctly. And even though it is a grade 3 and can be dead at times, it has its other uses, being that it could be a ride deck or perfect guard fodder. Now onto the deck profile, starting off with the ride deck, which has key roles for your soul charging and creating numbers that your opponent can guard. We of course went over Eugene, and then we have our standard starter, but the grade 1 and grade 2 provide important utility to ensure we could get off our plays. Both of them soul charge in some way. Starting off with the grade 1 Nigel. When rode upon by the grade 2, you can soul charge 1. Then on rearguard during your main phase, it is 1-for-1 because you can counterblast 1, retire it, and retire 1 of your opponent's rearguards. Onto the grade 2 Randor. When rode upon by our boy Eugene, you could draw a card and put a card from your drop zone into your soul. Then when he attacks, you could counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, and he gets plus 5k until the end of turn. Now onto the rest of the deck profile. Starting off, we play 4 Eugene, then play 3 of the Penetrate Dragon Tribash. Here's another good rest target because when your Vanguard attacks, you can send him to soul if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards to give one of your Vanguards a critical until the end of that battle. Then 3 of our order's Sunlight Punishment. Following that into our grade 2s, we have 3 of our Ride Line grade 2 Randor to help with soul charge and power, which leads into Drag Ritter Algorath, because on placement at the cost of Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1 can retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rearguards. Then onto our power gaining grade 2. Stealth Rogue of Iron Blade, who gains 5k when he attacks and they have 2 or less rearguards. Onto grade 1s, we have 3 of our Ride deck grade 1, 4 Shikamanago, and 4 Tenacity to complete our skill cards. Rounding out our deck, we have 4 Overdress Perfect cards, 7 Criticals for pressure, 4 draws to see your combo pieces, 1 Overtrigger, and 4 heal. I really hope this deck gets more support in the future to make it competitive, which decreases dependency on the Ride line and Persona Ride. This deck is strong and has some good building blocks to be expanded on. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.